one night class to the other?
Each time I attended to school, I was actually...
Today News Bulletin. My name is GHToday. Coming up in the headlines, students of Omajo forced to become carpenters at the expense of their education as a lack of desks forces majority to sit on the bare floor to learn. DC of Commander Edina Eguafo Ebrim throws weight behind assembly as it intensifies ban on open defecation. Ghana's position as a yam exporter on the line due to delays at the Tema port. We tell you how this is affecting exporters. These and many stories coming up on the bulletin. My name is GHToday. Stay with us. Pupils of Omajo pay a higher cost for education as they sit on the floor and on broken chairs to study. This dire situation isn't only affecting the academic work of the children, but also takes a toll on their health.
Omajo MA cluster of schools was built about 13 years ago within the Gan West Municipal Assembly. It is the only government school at Omajo, and children from over 10 surrounding communities come here for their basic education. Currently, the school has over 2,500 students with 60 teachers. Due to the huge population, the school runs a shift system. There are not less than 120 students in a class. Pupils from MA 1 and 2 share the same classroom with 2 teachers taking turns in teaching. Headmasters of the school share an office, which is in an awful state as well. As the pupil population increase every academic year, the school faces huge challenge with infrastructure and other amenities for a conducive learning environment.
We don't have a library, so it makes English difficult for us. Because when we have a library, we go to the library to go and read, to improve upon our language. But without the library, we cannot read. So when a teacher is in the class, when he's explaining the lesson, sometimes they use Chi, not English. So it makes learning hard for us.
The lack of furniture in classrooms has made teaching and learning very difficult. Pupils have no choice than to sit on these blocks and in worst cases on the floor. For lucky pupils who get desks to sit on, they have to sit in 3s and 4s, a huge price to pay for education. Though the school received about 200 desks last year, they were inadequate and currently in a deplorable state.
There are not a lot of chairs in the classroom and we don't feel comfortable when learning. And also, the school is not completed and we don't feel comfortable too. When a teacher is even teaching us, a lot of people will be making noise. And in one class, about 103 in the class, and only one teacher can teach. When the teacher too is teaching, he also gets tired.
It's very difficult because, we need more desks in this school. It's like we are all we are suffering in this school. We need more desks.
The situation has forced some of the students to become carpenters, fixing tables and chairs for their fellow students as teaching and learning goes on.
We are using this wooden for desks. We don't have enough desks for the school. So we are working for this.
We sometimes feel uncomfortable when learning because when doing our classworks, our teachers come to even pass through the chairs, but they don't get comfortable place when passing into our desks.
But the lack of furniture is not the only challenge the school faces. There is no decent toilet facility. Security is also a challenge since there is no fence wall. According to some headmasters who spoke to us off camera, mischievous students always find their way out of school to nearby game centers during school periods. About 3 years ago, there was a glimmer of hope as construction of a new classroom block started. The work has unfortunately come to a standstill for almost a year now. The school recently benefited from government school feeding program, a huge relief for teachers who in most cases had to feed the poor students out of their pockets. Authorities of the school are therefore calling on government to come to their aid as the situation is gradually out of hand.
Now, some governance experts blame Ghana's inability to sustain her GDP growth on inefficiencies in the public sector. Executive Director of the Institute of Democratic Governance, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, maintains there are numerous opportunities in the public sector that managers of the country's public sector can take advantage of to turn around Ghana's fortunes.
The public sector designs and implements policies and programs that aim to fulfill the government's broad economic and social policies. A Public Service Commission was created in 1948 to advise on issues relating to appointments, transfers, and disciplinary control of public officers. 60 years down the line, achievement within the public sector of Ghana is highly recognized. The inability of the country to sustain growth, especially in the country's GDP, has been partly attributed to an ineffective public sector. This has led to a dip in public confidence by citizens in the public sector. Fragmentation and the creation of multiple regulatory institutions have created mandate conflicts and overlaps. Almost all institutions constituting to the public service continue to compete for space, human resources, and in some cases engage in a tough war. Corruption has equally been a major setback, inhibiting the growth of the public sector, and the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, emphasized to fight against this growing phenomenon.
Those of us in public service should acknowledge that corruption is one of the biggest concerns to the people of Ghana. It is the one subject on which a surprising number of people are willing to tolerate a waiver of due process. This is because, unfortunately, public officials are in danger of losing the confidence of the people in the fight against corruption.
At the inaugural seminar on local governance reforms and public service institutions held by the Institute for Democratic Governance in Accra, Chairman for the Public Service Commission, Bridget Katriku, says the lukewarm attitude of most workers is crippling the sector.
The attitude of the public servants is cause for concern. But one, as I was saying in the paper, one has to look at the environment in which the public servant operates. And one will also ask the question, what type of leadership do we have? Because leadership decides everything. And if our leaders, both from the political and the bureaucratic level, if our leaders are strong, the attitude of the public servant will change. Because when the public servant is aware that infringement on rules and regulations will be punished, they will conform, they will adhere to them.
Professor of Political Science and Senior Research Fellow at IDEC, Joseph Achuaye, says there is a future for public sector if stakeholders show commitment and support to the sector.
I think that the future is bright because there are opportunities, and because there are opportunities, we should not miss those opportunities. The development partners, the citizens, civil society organizations are also interested in the performance of the public sector. So the goodwill is there. The private sector is also interested in the public sector because an efficient public sector will actually create the enabling environment for a very active private sector.
He further admonished government to harmonize inconsistencies and contradictions in the Constitution and acts relating to the sector.
According to some residents of Nima in Accra, misplaced priorities continue to hinder the country's infrastructural and other basic development. There were, however, mixed reactions about how the current administration has performed after 1 year in office. A report by William Evans Enko.
On the president's meeting with the media on Wednesday, some residents of Nima were satisfied with most of the questions asked during that encounter.
Get more detainees.
But the issue of security was one of their utmost concern.
We were seeing bombs and those kind of weapons in the country. So many robbing are going on. So every day we can experience about 10 robbings.
Every day, 10 robbers?
Yes, you will see here Tema. Now, even currently, they have killed some soldier guy in Tema. Right now, I'm talking. You see, there is no tight security in the country.
Special prosecutor with...
The office of the special prosecutor was perhaps the most contentious topics as they monitored the events from their homes.
There are a lot of things happening, but you can't talk, you can't do anything. That's why I say this special prosecutor will invite a lot of people. And if the time comes, you'll see.
It's the reality.
On the whole, the president's responses to most of the questions were satisfactory. Osman, a motorcycle mechanic at Nima, summarized past and current government attitude to developing the country in one word.
I'm not too happy. The reason why I said this is that because the meningitis didn't, attack maybe, I don't know how to. Look, I'm not happy how they handle such issues.
Right.
Because we always, excuse me to say, we Ghanaians, we behave like grass.
What? We behave like grass?
The fact is, these people want the issue of security to be addressed and corrupt officials punished.
Now, an award ceremony has been held in Menchia Palace in Kumasi. It was held in honor of security personnel, government institutions, schools, and private organizations for their contribution towards successfully organizing the final funeral rites of the late Asante Hima, Nana Ifya Sewa Kubi Ampem.
Each of the awardees, including Ghana's largest media brand, EIB Network, Unibank, Security Services, other government institutions and banks, received citations. Prempeh College, Opokuwari, Kumasi Technical Institute, Asanteman SHS, among other senior high schools, Cadet Corps, also took citation from the Otumfo for their excellent contribution. Kwame Adinkra, host of Ebusia FM's morning show Ebusia Nkomo, also was given a special award for his contribution to the successful planning and organization of the funeral. Addressing the awardees, Otumfo commended the media for their uninterrupted coverage both on radio and television. Bompata Manhene Ambassador Nana Ifa Penting spoke on behalf of the Otumfo Oseitutu II at the event.
Your excellent performances, individually and collectively, have not only contributed to an outstanding display of Ashanti tradition and culture at its best, but also rekindled our pride in our heritage as a people and our nation. By extension, you have also helped to burnish Ghana's image on the international plane.
Now, the District Chief Executive of Komenda, Edina Egwafu Abrim, is throwing his weight fully behind the Assembly on moves to stop open defecation in the region. Let's listen to Nana Apia Krang, and let's cross over to the lines to speak with Alex Dante, the Environmental Science Officer for KEA.
The President is very, very concerned about open defecation. Open defecation has effects. That's, I understand, because of open defecation, last year about 3,650 children died of diarrhea. So all that we can do to put a stop to open defecation so that we have open defecation free. We trying to do whatever we can. And because of that, the Assembly has my full support by arresting those people who go to the beach to do their own thing. Now we started from Elimina, we've been arresting people, and I think now people are very much concerned about not going there. And especially, in fact, it is an eyesore to see people defecating at where we produce salt. And because of that, the production of salt has totally come down.
You're watching GHToday News. My name is Kafri Day. We've got business coming up. Stay with us. And now to business. Ghana's reputation as the third largest yam producer in West Africa after Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire and a leading exporter of yam is on the line as dealers are recording low exports of their products. Yam exporters say delays at the Tema Harbour during export of yams are affecting their business. Nabil Ahmed Rufai has more in this report.
Scrubbing dirt off tubers of yam and gently arranging them in a stack, part of the preparation before yams are exported abroad. Here at a warehouse in Abubulushi Market, these workers package the yams in cartons for loading onto a truck ready for transport to the Tema Harbour. Akosia Tampoli employs over 50 staff and says business has been slow within the last 7 months of 2017 due to delays in export of the yams when they get to the harbour.
Packaging, you do have no ship on my and I see in Nigeria. To bounce and Yamanaka. And
Ghana is a leading exporter of yam, accounting for over 94% of total yam exports in West Africa. This feat, according to James Morrow, who cultivates yams in Bimbila and supplies to export dealers at the Abugoloshi market, will be lost if the delays during export at the Tema Harbour is not checked.
This year, the things are not going well for us because me, I'm a trader. I'm buying from them. I'm still a farmer too. When you buy and you come here, it's not buying. And those who are making export, they are complaining that when they want to make the exports, it is not running fast.
A staff, Kwame Minta, shares how the decline in yam exports has had a toll on him.
Say more a quantum, that's what I'm talking my workers say, so I'm not trying to be here. That's what I say. Because young workers in the Kutam Kran and my actual movie. The abundance in my young, that's what I say. And the abandoned one shipping lines run on Casa. Agricultural
policies between 2005 and 2010, yam production in Ghana contributed about 16% to the country's agricultural gross domestic product, accounting for 11% of total consumption in 2007. About 90% of Ghana's yams are exported to the US, UK, and the Netherlands. In April 2014, large quantities of yam exported to the US from Ghana was rejected, as most were found to be unwholesome upon arrival in that country.
Still in business, Ghana is anticipating increased oil exploration activities because of the entrance of ExxonMobil. The Minister of Energy, Boakye Ejiako, tells GH1 Business that the move will also increase government's revenue from the sector to propel economic growth and transformation.
ExxonMobil's investment in the oil sector becomes the first major one in Ghana following the landmark ruling by ITLOS on the maritime border disputes between Ghana and Ivory Coast in September last year. Sector Minister Boakye Ejiako, beyond the monetary gains, looks forward to the skills ExxonMobil will transfer to local hands.
I have always said that we have to get people who can do the work, not people who are going to take the oil block, sit on it, hoping to flip and make some money. The BPs, the Shells, the Chevron, all of them are now interested in coming to operate in Ghana. It is following the signal of ExxonMobil accepting to be here. So we are leveraging the reputation of ExxonMobil in order to attract others. And I think it's useful for this country.
On his part, the CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Dr. KK Sapon, stressed the enforcement of local content policies.
The fiscal terms are quite more favorable compared with the previous ones. When they talk about fiscal terms, then it means the revenue flow. It will give us more money. Then secondly, in terms of employment, the local content arrangements that we have in place now will, obviously, if we really implement it to the letter, will ensure more job creation.
The company is expected to start exploration after Parliament ratifies the deal. Ghanaian ownership is estimated at 30%. This comprises 10% royalty to the government of Ghana, while GNPC owns 15% stake as carried and participation interest. Also, the local partner for ExxonMobil is entitled to 5% of the company's stake.
Related to that story, some industry players have welcomed ExxonMobil with mixed reactions.
In the past, we have lamented about the capacity of companies that have come into the country to help us produce oil. And we doubted their capacity, and they have proven that they didn't have the capacity to do that. But Exxon has a track record. They have the money, they have the technology, they have the experienced individuals to help exploit the resources. I think we have questioned the approach in the past, whether the government couldn't have done competitive tendering process, which is required under the new petroleum law, the Petroleum Exploration and Production Law. But the minister justified that by saying that it was an existing agreement that was being negotiated by the past government, and also they also look at the competency and capacity of ExxonMobil, and also the fact that that block they're asking for has been relinquished on a couple of occasions, and therefore they needed a different company with that muscle and capacity to exploit it. So on those grounds, we can say that we would hope that into the future we would activate the competitive tendering process to ensure that subsequent agreements don't go through direct negotiation.
Burden of getting Ghanaians and Ghanaian technical staff is on Ghana. It's not. I don't believe that any oil company in Ghana today can train all our petroleum engineers and those who want to go into. Our educational institutions don't seem to have been aligned to the industry, and that is directly on government. And if they can't be aligned to industry, how do we build the capacity? Apart from that, the private sector should be taken and trained in oil and gas. That is the only way we can also build our ExxonMobils and our Chevrons and all those of this world.
And that does it for business. Now, if you're wondering what the weather is like, well, here comes the forecast for Ghana and selected cities around the world. Freezing in New York, hot in Nima. That's how the weather is for today. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin, GH Today News. My name is Kafui Day. Stay with us. We've got GH Today coming up, and it's really, really exciting. Have a good morning.